What have I got right here? Hey makeup friends! Today I'm going to be sharing with you the concealers and the foundations that I keep reaching for over and over again. But before we get into it, I want to welcome you back to my channel, or if you are new here, then welcome. My name is Kara, I'm a 40-year-old working mother of 2, and makeup brings me no end of joy. On my channel we like to mix beauty, brains, and the occasional F-bomb, so if that sounds like something you're interested in, I invite you to consider subscribing. Alright, so let's just dive straight into it, and let's start with what I'm wearing on my face today, and it's a mix of 2 foundations. So, first up we have the Wet n Wild Photo Focus Foundation, the dewy version, and I have it in the shade Nude Ivory. This is too light for me, so I mix it with this one here from Rare Beauty, and this is in the shade 240W. And this is currently too deep for me. So you mix them together and they give me my perfect shade. So in the dead of winter, this one is good for me because I've lost all of my tan. In the dead of summer, this one works out really well because I am obviously as deep as I'm going to be all year at that time. So mixing the 2 of them together, I also find gives a really nice finish on the skin. While this one is dewy, this one has more of a natural kind of finish. I wouldn't say that it's mattifying at all, but it does help to tone down the dewiness of the Wet n Wild. Both of them mix really easily because they both have a doe foot applicator. This one is more of like that spongy kind of typical doe foot, whereas the one in the Wet n Wild is more of a plastic sort of paddle, if you will. But it makes it really easy because I can just swipe a little bit on different points of my face and then go in with a brush or a sponge and blend it out. But together they look really nice on the skin. I think it gives a really good finish to my face as well, and they just play nice together. Another mix that I really seem to gravitate towards, especially on mornings when I'm going into the office, is this combo right here. Now, unfortunately, I don't think you can get this foundation anymore, but I'm going to just classify it as powder foundation for the purposes of what I'm saying. So first up, I go in with this guy. This is the BB Plus Illumination Facial Cream from Gerard Cosmetics, and I have it in the shade Grace. And it's just a really nice highlighting, brightening kind of primer. It can be used as like a liquid highlighter. A ton just came out. Oh dear. It could be used as a liquid highlighter, but sheared out over my face, it does give a really nice brightening effect. However, I find that if I just use that alone, it can look a little odd because my whole face is too shiny for what I like it to be. So that's where I go in with the powder foundation. Now this one in specific is the Superstay Better Skin from Maybelline in the shade 20 Classic Ivory. Like I said, I don't think they still make this, but they may have another powder foundation in their range now that's replaced this one. I'm not sure. I've had this one for a long time, and it's one of those ones that gets pushed into the back of my drawer, and then every time I bring it out, I fall in love with it again. And as you can see, I've now hit pan on it, and I keep it right at the front of the drawer now because I'm really enjoying using it. It does have a bit of a mattifying finish to it, especially because it is a powder foundation, but that's where the combination of the 2 really works out nicely. It helps to tone down the shininess that this creates, but that luminosity that this one has peeks through. So it's really a nice little combination between the 2, and I just find that it's so easy to throw this on in the morning and then my foundation is done. It wears really nicely throughout the day. It doesn't look cakey on my skin. And even as we're approaching these winter months and our furnace is now on and my skin is getting a little bit drier, it's still not creating any dry patches or clinging to any little bits of dryness that I have on my face. So I really do like this combination in particular. We'll stick with the foundations and then move into concealers. So there are 2 other liquid foundations that I just keep reaching for on heavy rotation. And one of them is a good old standard MAC product. This one is the Pro Longwear foundation, and I have it in the shade NC20. I don't know why I'm looking for it. I know that I'm in NC20, but regardless, this one is just, it's such a workhorse. Like, it does offer a really good amount of coverage. I wouldn't say that it's full coverage. I tend not to like full coverage, to be honest, but it is solid, medium, and buildable up from there. The tone of it just works perfectly for my skin. It lasts so nicely throughout the day, and again, it gives a really realistic finish to the skin without being overly mattifying or overly dewy. I don't really like anything on either end of that spectrum. I do like it to look almost like a demi-matte or a bit of a satin finish. I like my foundation to look like skin, and this one achieves that. Last but not least, for the liquid foundations then, is the Natasha Denona Foundation X Plus, and I have this in the shade 25W. Again, it's one of those foundations that just looks very realistic on the skin. It has a slight amount of glow to it, but it's not a dewy finish. It just looks very natural, and I really like that about it. Again, it offers medium coverage. You can build it up if you need to, but it is just a very beautiful foundation on the skin, and it wears so nicely throughout the day. I find that it doesn't separate across my forehead. It doesn't cake up in any fine lines that I have. It just wears really well throughout the day, and I just love this foundation. All right, so now we're going to move into concealers. Now, just so you're aware, what it is that I'm looking for when it comes to concealers are longevity, coverage, and hydration. I don't like a light coverage concealer. I have very dark circles. I always have. My kids have them. It's very much genetic. Love that for me, but it is what it is. So I'm looking for high coverage, but I don't want my under eyes to look like a satchel of Richards. So I also want it to be hydrating and not dry out that area of my skin. And I want it to last throughout the day. It does me no good if I put it on and it's super high coverage, but 2 or 3 hours later, it's just kind of evaporated into nothing, or it's separated and got all splotchy under my eyes. So those are the 3 things that I'm looking for. And I have 4 concealers here that I find check all those boxes, and that I really just find myself reaching for over and over again above the other concealers in my collection. So let's start off with this one here from Kevyn Aucoin. I have talked about this one before. This has a terrible name, which I absolutely despise, but the Sensual Skin Enhancer. It's a concealer by any other name. I have it in the shade SX06, and I wish that I had bought it in SX04 because this one's a little bit too deep for me. It's a little too deep, so at this time of year, I'm not reaching for it as much, but let me tell you, this is going to last you your entire life. There is so much product in here, and honestly, the tiniest amount is all you need. This is super high coverage, but it blends out really nicely. It lasts throughout the day, and it just looks really nice under the eyes, except at this time of the year when I've lost my tan from the summer, it looks a little bit too dark on me. I can mix in a lighter shade that I have, not of this same concealer, but of another concealer just to get the color right. But I wish I'd bought it in the shade that would have worked better for me. Regardless, it's a fantastic concealer, and when the color does work for me, this is the one that I keep reaching for. So then moving on to ones that I don't need to manipulate at this time of year, but still offer insane coverage, is this one here from McGrath. This is the Skin Fetish Sublime Perfection Concealer in the shade LM8. I'm not sure why we have like Skin Fetish and Sensual Enhancer. I don't know what's particularly sexy about the under eyes, but maybe they're onto something that I'm not aware of. Regardless, this guy here packs a punch, and it is such a nice concealer. Again, it's got a nice little doe foot there, so ease of application is there. It blends out really nicely. It's not drying under my eyes, but it does offer a good amount of coverage. Maybe not quite as much as the Kevyn Aucoin. In fact, I don't think anything that I have offers quite as much coverage as this one, but it's a pretty good close second, and I really have no complaints about this one. Bringing the price point right down though is one from e.l.f., and this is the Hydrating Camo Concealer with a satin finish, and I have it in the shade Light Sand. That's what I'm wearing right now, and this concealer is so good. If you are looking for a budget-friendly concealer, look no further. Now I haven't tried their original camo concealer, not the hydrating version. I haven't tried the original one, but I have not heard good reviews about it. So if you're looking to try it, I would suggest the hydrating one. For me, I have normal leaning towards dry skin, and this does not get dry under my eyes at all. And it has really good lasting power as well. For, I think it's like $8 or something like that, you really can't go wrong with this. Again, it has one of those giant doe foots, kind of reminds me of the Tarte Shape Tape. I have to say Tarte Tape. I don't know why. It's like ingrained. I don't know what it is. Regardless, it has a very similar applicator to that product, but it's, honestly, I think this is the best, I'm going to say it is the best concealer that I have tried from the drugstore. It doesn't disappoint. Definitely check that one out, especially if you're looking for a more budget-friendly option. The last one that I want to talk about is one that I've just recently discovered, and you can see it's just a little sample, but it's one that once I make a bit of a dent in my concealer collection, I would consider purchasing the full size of this. And this is the Forever Skin Correct from Dior, and I have it in the shade 2N. It says on here it is a 24-hour wear caring, full coverage, creamy concealer. I don't know what the caring means. Maybe it'll give me a hug at the end of the day? I'm not sure. Regardless, I haven't put it to the test for 24 hours. I don't wear anything for 24 hours, I'll tell you that right now. But this has excellent coverage. And again, it doesn't dry out, it doesn't get cakey, it doesn't just disappear or just camp out in little fine lines. It's a fantastic concealer, and I'm really glad that I actually tried this little sample. I get a ton of these samples. Anytime I order from Sephora, I can't help myself but to order the little samples, and then they just amass and collect, and I get overwhelmed with them, so I don't bother trying them. But this one I actually did try, and I'm very happy that I did because I really like this concealer. So there you have it, guys. Those are the base products that I have been reaching for over and over and over again. And it finally dawned on me that that is what I'm doing. I'm really just reaching for these ones on heavy rotation, really kind of willy-nilly. It's not like I'm like, okay, it's Monday, I'm going to go in with this product. It's just whatever I happen to be in the mood for at that particular moment. But I'm finding that even though I like the other products that I have in my collection, I'm just not reaching for them. I'm reaching for these ones on a far more consistent basis. So I thought I'd share them with you in case you're in the market for a new foundation or a new concealer, and I can guide you in the direction of some products that I really enjoy. So there you have it. That is all I need to say. So I'm going to wrap this video up here. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch, and I will see you in my next video. Until then, just be a decent human being. Bye for now.